Oh, hello, hello, hello! My friends, Scotty J here, back again with another episode of 9 Hours, 9 Persons, and 9 Doors. Now, last time, we got the 4-leaf clover from Santa, gave it to Clover in room 7, and then she kept trying to tell us a story about an experiment from 9 years ago that her and her brother were involved in. However, we kept getting interrupted, first by 7, and then by Ace, and by Ace a second time, annoyingly so. So we're with Ace right now in the communications room, and we just found a red file. Let's continue from there, shall we? A red file lay on the drawer. Chippy reached down and picked it up. The cover read, "All ice." All ice? Alice? Did that mean... Chippy couldn't hold back. He had to know what was in the file. Each page was covered with strange characters. It looked like tiny drawings of birds, snakes, insects, horned animals, wings, and even kneeling humans. There were many pages in the file, and each one was full of these strange symbols. What the hell is this? He didn't realize he'd spoken out loud until Ace looked over at him. Those are hieroglyphics, a form of writing used in ancient Egypt. Ancient Egypt? That's right. Can you read them? Of course. I can't. What makes you think I could? What the hell? Chippy flipped through a few more pages. It wasn't just 1 or 2 pages that were covered in these strange symbols. Every single page was covered in them. Trying to read them was pointless. Chippy wasn't going to waste any more time with them. He made to close the file when... something fell out. He bent down and picked it up. A keycard? There was a symbol on it that reminded Junpei of the symbols for the Saturn and Mercury keycards. This one, however, had a dot in the center of the male symbol. Uranus. That's the Uranus symbol. Junpei looked over to see Ace examining the card. In addition to the Uranus symbol, there were 3 words engraved on the card as well. On the lower right it said, Bottom Deck Library. This must be the key to the library in the bottom deck. So it would seem. The bottom deck. The library. Jim remembered something he'd heard from 7 when they'd been in the chemical closet. Alice sleeps in the small chamber past the forest of knowledge beneath the navel of the gigantic. Did beneath the navel mean the bottom deck? Did forest of knowledge mean the library? If so, then was Alice in a room somewhere beyond the library? What's wrong? Junpei blinked. Only then did he notice Ace looking at him. Curiosity and concern written across his face in equal parts. There was no reason for Junpei to hide his thoughts. He began to explain his theory to Ace. Then he stopped. It wouldn't make any sense if Ace didn't know who Alice was supposed to be, so he told Ace everything he knew from June. About the Egyptian priestess, about Ice 9, and finally about the woman who wouldn't melt, who was recovered from the Titanic disaster. He told him about how she was called All Ice, and had eventually been turned to Alice, and how she'd been purchased by the English millionaire who called himself Lord Gordain, and how Gordain had hid Alice somewhere in the ship. And you think he hid her in a small room beyond the library on the bottom deck? Well, yeah. I guess so. I see. Ace stared off into the distance, his hands slowly and absent-mindedly stroking his beard. After a few moments, his hand stopped. He turned slowly to look at Junpei. His brows drew together. Junpei, have you heard of the term CAS? CAS? It stands for Cells Alive System. It is an advanced technology for freezing and preserving organic matter. Put it simply, it is technology that allows one to freeze things without the formation of ice crystals. Normally, if you freeze something fresh, water within its cells expands as it crystallizes, damaging the cell membrane. CAS, however, works differently. The object to be frozen is supercooled using magnetic fields, and then frozen instantly and uniformly, giving the ice crystals no time to form. It was originally developed for the preservation of food, as an alternative to the normal freezing process. Now, however, there are rumors that it can be used for other things. What do you mean, other things? Well, there are obvious medical uses, but perhaps also space travel. Space travel? Are you serious? Surely you've heard of suspended animation. Or cryogenic freezing? It's a fairly common idea in science fiction books and films. People are sometimes frozen for especially lengthy journeys through space. That was when Junpei understood what Ace was suggesting. Whoa, 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 whoa. Wait a minute there. Ace looked at him and raised an eyebrow. Are you saying that Alice was frozen using that CAS thing? Well, I'm sure the possibility is quite low, but it is a possibility. If this special ice you call Ice 9 does indeed exist, and if CAS was used to freeze her into that sort of ice instantaneously, you think she could be alive? Well, I can't say for sure, of course. I'm only talking about possibilities. The melting point of Ice 9 is 96 degrees, right? She were put somewhere where she could reach that temperature. That's nuts! Are you really saying she could have defrosted and started walking about? Oh, you're quite right. It does sound unbelievable. But if she had, then we would have had an explanation for the man we found dead on the floor. You mean the guy dressed like a captain? Yes. He was dead when we found him. Clearly, he was murdered. But if he were murdered, then by who? It couldn't have been one of us. That would be impossible. In order to enter the captain's quarters, one must first open door 1. The door that requires the Earth key that prevented us from accessing that door. Who was it that opened the door, then? Lotus and Santa. Right. Clearly, the two of them could not have opened door 1, or any other door for that matter. Who else, then, could have done so? Junpei thought for a second. No, nobody. After Santa and Lotus had used the Earth key, they turned back and met up with June and Junpei, who had just returned from EDAC. The four of them then proceeded to return to the large hospital room to reunite with Ace, Seven, and Clover. When Junpei and his team had gone into the shower room, Ace, Seven, and Clover had been left in the large hospital room, but they would have been unable to open door 1. Perhaps when Junpei and June had taken the elevator to door 2 then? No, that would have been impossible. They'd only been gone 5 minutes. No human being could run to the captain's quarters, killed the man in there, and then run back in 5 minutes. It'd be impossible for any of us to be the murderer. That being the case, who could have killed him? Would it make sense if his killer was someone who had been in the ship for some time? A person like that would know the ship well. Would know the locations of all the hidden passages and secret doors. The numbered doors would mean nothing to someone like that. It'd be simple for them to enter the captain's quarters. Then you're saying the killer was Alice? It was Junpei's turn to raise an eyebrow. Ace drew his thumb across his lips, thoughtfully. Well, that is only one possible theory. All ice. Alice. Was Alice indeed somewhere on the ship with them? Junpei had only one clue. The key card in his hand. It would, he hoped, grant him access to the Forest of Knowledge. But beyond that, what waited for them beyond the Forest of Knowledge? Whatever might be there, however, would have to wait. At the moment, there was nothing Junpei could do. He gripped the key card tighter and shoved it deep into his pocket. All right, and with that, we're going to take a pause and jump on ahead. We'll get out of the store, meet up with the group, and head for door 9. See you in a second. All right, and we are back. Sweet. So we have met up with the group, headed on down to EDAC, I believe. Just had a little chat with June, and now Seven suddenly stopped. In front of them stood a door. So this is... Junpei couldn't see Seven's face, but he could see him nod. And there's no other place for us to go? Nope. Just look around. At the end of the hallway was a thick iron wall. To the left and the right, other hallways led to the port and starboard sides of the ship, but they were closed off by thick metal grates. It looked as though Seven was right. The door in front of them was their only choice. All right, let's get moving. He pulled open the door and walked in. Junpei took a deep breath and followed. It appeared they'd been telling the truth. First thing Junpei saw when he entered the room was the number 9. Like all the others, it was a rough thing made of red paint. The door decorated sat in the back wall of a rectangular room. Junpei ran up to it. It was a large double door with powerful styling. Something about it was almost majestic, and it made the red paint look especially garish. Junpei grabbed the handle and shook. It didn't budge, but then he hadn't really expected it to. The red was bolted to the wall next to the door, The display read vacant. Finally, they had arrived. Junpei felt a flood of emotions wash over him. He felt a chill run down his back, and his chest tightened, even as his blood began to boil. He was about to speak when... "Junpei, look behind you!" He turned around. Junpei could scarcely believe what he saw. A door. And a 9. There was another one. Hey! What the hell? What the hell is going on in here? His words came slowly, and his brain struggled to understand what he'd seen. On shaky legs, he made his way to the second 9. It was a small door, set parallel to the door they'd come through, but in the other corner of the room. 9. There was no mistaking the number, and if any more proof was needed, the red was bolted onto the wall next to the door. He grabbed the handle and shook the door, not because he expected it to open, but he wanted to make sure it was real. Why the hell are there 2 doors? It was Ace who spoke first. Do you think perhaps one is the right door and the other's the wrong one? Lotus was skeptical. I don't know about that. That seems unlikely. What makes you say so? Well, think about all the rooms we've been through so far. They're full of puzzles, but there are always hints about how to solve them. I'm pretty sure there aren't any rooms where we just had to go with our best guess and leave it to instinct to solve the puzzle. Do you really think that at the very end of the game, Zero was going to suddenly throw in something that depended entirely on luck? Then you're saying there's some sort of hint in this room? No, I don't think there's a hint anywhere in here. I searched it very well when I was in here before. I didn't find anything that might have been a hint, though. Well then that means... Yeah, both of these are the right door. I mean, if you think about it, Zero never actually said there was only one door with a 9 on it. The exit is hidden, but it is there. Seek the exit. Seek the door that carries a 9. Junpei began to mutter to himself. So if there were 2 number 9 doors, if we split it up right, that's not going to work. Junpei blinked and looked up at Clover. She held out her hand. You've got a notebook and pen, right? Can I borrow them? Slightly confused, he pulled them out and handed them over to her. Look at this. Clover opened the notebook to a blank page and set it down on the desk. Everyone gathered around her and watched as she wrote down a series of numbers. You get it? The numbers on the top are all the combinations of digital roots of 9. Numbers on the bottom are the people who don't fit. There are only 8 possibilities if we split into 2 groups of 3 or 4 people. So, if 3 people go through the door, then 4 are left behind. And if 4 go through, then 3 are left behind, right? Clover nodded, almost as if she were pleased with herself for solving a difficult math problem. The room went very quiet. Silence lay across everyone like a thick, heavy blanket. No one spoke. Their faces were blank. Desperate for something else to look at, Junpei turned his eyes to the room around him. As he did, he began to wonder. What was it? The walls were covered with candles. The wavering flames made the shadows of Junpei and his companions look as though they were dancing. 2 rows of wooden pews filled the room. Between them was a strip of rich red carpet. The carpet ran straight through the room, ending at the door that pointed to the stern of the boat. On the other end of the carpet, an altar? It was a recessed space set in the wall between those other 2 doors. Sitting on a raised section of the altar was a coffin. A coffin. A coffin. A coffin? No, it couldn't possibly be. But if it wasn't, then whose body occupied it? That was as far as Junpei wanted to pursue that line of thought. He decided not to think about that coffin for the time being. At that moment, it was Seven who spoke up. There was an edge of humor to his voice, but it was forced. Okay, I give up. Figured if we sat around here long enough, someone would volunteer, but I guess someone's got the guts to do it. Junpei didn't understand, and he wasn't the only one. What? You guys didn't figure it out yet? Ugh, fine. Let me enlighten you. Clover was mostly right with a little explanation earlier, but she missed something. Wasn't really wrong, she just... screw it. Let me write it out.
Snevin snatched up the notebook and began to write in it. Everyone else clustered around him, desperate for a look.
If you're trying to leave with a group of 3 and a group of 4 and get everybody out, Clover's right. But there's another way. Only one combination, though. Split us up into groups of 3, 3, and 1. You can make this combination.
Wait. This means...
don't get me wrong here. I'm not trying to copy Ace or anything like that. If he hadn't been the hero in the big hospital room, I'd still be saying the same thing.
The same thing? Are you saying...
Yeah, I am. I'll stay behind.
Whoa. Why are you acting so heroic all of a sudden? Are you some kind of idiot? Lotus was the first to speak. That in itself was a little strange. She'd reacted much differently when Ace had volunteered. I'm completely against this. I'd be goddamned if I'm going to owe you for getting me out of here. The rest of them began to speak, all at once. I'm against it too. I don't want to have to leave Ace behind, and I don't want to leave you either. I don't like that idea. There's got to be some other options.
I disagree as well. I can't say I care much for you being the hero.
Finally, they quieted down, and Junpei looked at Seven. Well, there you go, Seven. Proposal denied. Clover's right. There's got to be a better way than this. Seven made some sort of noise that could be somewhere between a snort and a cough.
That doesn't make any sense.
He was doing his best to pretend they were making a foolish decision, but Junpei could tell, with a twinkling of water at the corners of his eyes. That was when Santa spoke.
Whoa, hold on a minute. I haven't said anything yet.
Until then, Junpei hadn't realized that Santa had stayed quiet for the whole discussion of Seven's fate. Something in his voice made Junpei uncomfortable. Are you agreeing? You want to leave him here? Santa shook his head.
Nah, I'm against it. I don't want to leave Seven here alone.
Then I don't see how that matters.
I said alone.
Eh?
I said I don't want to leave Seven here alone.
There was a dull shine in Santa's eyes. They were cold and hard. Jimmy felt himself shiver. What the hell are you...
What, you don't get it? You can't leave just one person. I need 2 more. 3 people, including Seven. I'll be leaving behind 3 people. That's my proposal. No. Those are my orders.
What do you mean, orders? What the hell makes you think you can order us around? Who the hell's gonna listen to you?
You all will. In 3 seconds, you won't have a choice.
What?
3, 2, 1.
Santa was so fast, Jimmy could barely see him. When he moved, it was almost like watching a dance. His feet moved like lightning. He spun and... Ah! He had June.
See? I told ya.
His lips curled into a cruel, mocking smile. A shudder traveled the length of Junpei's spine. His chest froze. He could feel his breath go stale in his lungs. Nothing made sense. Junpei felt as though his head was about to explode. Santa's sudden change in attitude? Saying that he needed 2 more? The gun in his right hand? A revolver. Santa had grabbed June from behind and pressed what Junpei's shaken brain identified as a revolver roughly against her temple. What was he doing with a gun? Where on earth had he gotten one? Junpei's questions roared in his mind, but his mouth refused to ask them. Seven spoke, almost though he had sensed Junpei's confusion.
That gun's from the other room.
What room?
The one behind door 6. I should have known he was going to do this. Oh, I should have taken the gun. Heh, well, it's too late now, fat ass. Damn it.
A mixture of fury and frustration twisted Seven's face, and he glared at Santa. Santa, for his part, didn't so much as flinch. The corner of his lip twisted into a slightly wider smile. Then the smile faded, and he began to move. He walked backwards, dragging June with him. Before long, his back was resting against the door. On the wall next to him was the red. Put his hand on the scanner panel quickly, and then forced June to do the same.
Now, time for you to start following my orders. Ace, Lotus, congratulations. I've chosen you to come with me. Put your hands on the red.
3 plus 6 plus 1 plus 8 equals 18. That was what Santa had meant when he said he needed 2 more.
Hey, you deaf? I gave you an order.
Santa's eyes narrowed to slits, and he glared at Ace and Lotus. They stayed frozen, like deer caught in the headlights of an oncoming car.
Right. Fine. I ain't gonna waste any bullets, but you guys don't seem to get it.
No sooner were the words out of Santa's mouth than his hand twitched, and the gun roared. A section of the floor exploded, scattering wooden splinters across the floor. A thin plume of smoke snaked out of the hole in the floor. There could be no doubt that the gun was real, and it worked.
But why? Santa, why are you...
Clover's voice spoke of betrayal and disbelief.
Santa, I thought you were one of us. I thought we were friends. What?
You knew about the leaf words, and the 4-leaf clover.
Santa's cheek twitched, almost impersonally. What the hell is that shit? Got no idea.
You're lying.
Shut up! Just shut up, you stupid bitch! You want me to put a bullet in your fucking head?
Flecks of spit flew from Santa's mouth, his face twisted with rage. Clover recoiled, her eyes wide. When she spoke, her voice was very small.
Santa.
He snorted and shook his head vigorously, turning to face Ace and Lotus.
All right, assholes. What are you still standing there for? Get over here and scan those bracelets. I don't have all day. Oh, what's the matter? Your hearing starting to go? Going senile, maybe?
Ace and Lotus still didn't move. It almost seemed as though they couldn't move. June's face was pale behind Santa's arm. Her eyes were wild and her chest heaved with every quick breath, like an animal cornered by a predator. Junpei's mind worked furiously. What were they going to do? Then he realized something. There was nothing they needed to do. There was nothing to debate. June's safety was the first priority. That much was obvious. Doing as Santa had commanded meant that she would be safe from at least 2 threats. She wouldn't be shot. She would leave the ship alive, along with Santa, Ace, and Lotus. There was only one thing for Junpei to do. He turned to Ace and Lotus. Please, go.
Huh?
But, Junpei, what are you saying? If you stay here, you're gonna get stuck, Junpei. And so will Clover and Seven. I know. But you don't need to worry about us. We'll figure something out. Right, Seven?
Right. Yeah, you just leave it to us. It's gonna piss me off to do what Santa says, but...
Don't worry about me either. There's something I have to take care of. But, no, you can't. Ace, Lotus, don't do it. Don't worry about me, please. June was almost crying. Junpei walked behind Ace and Lotus. Without a word, he laid a hand on each of their backs and gently pushed them forward. They almost stumbled. They righted themselves and took another step. And another. They turned around and Junpei nodded. Ace and Lotus turned around again and slowly walked towards the door where Santa was waiting for them. After what seemed like an eternity, they stopped in front of the door marked 9. Santa smiled.
All right, let's get those hands on the scanner panels. What's the holdup? What, you think I'm fucking around here? I don't give a shit about this girl. The red doesn't need a person, you know. All I need is the bracelet. You get it? Good. Now put your fucking hands on the fucking scanner. I'm not gonna say it again.
He shoved the revolver harder against June's head, and she winced.
Fine.
Ace sighed, defeated, and placed his hand on the scanner panel. Lotus went next. Lotus glared at Santa and slammed her hand on the panel. The force asterisk blinked on.
Ah, good job. Now, Lotus, pull that lever. As soon as the door opens, you get your ass in there. Try anything stupid, and you know what happens, right?
Junpei could almost hear Lotus's teeth grind. The door slid open. Door number 9 opened at last. It opened with a low, powerful rumble. A drum roll to welcome the chosen few.
All right, go!
Lotus and Ace walked through the door, their eyes furious, but defeated. Santa waited until they were all the way inside, then hauled himself and June across the threshold as well. 6, 7, 8. Later! After exactly 9 seconds, the door swung shut. The gust of air it created caused the candles on the altar to flicker and die. The room fell silent. Junpei, Clover, and Seven had been left behind. Clover looked down at her hand and traced with her fingers the faint blue veins that crisscrossed them. Seven shoved his arms in front of his overalls and scratched his stomach. No one spoke. Silence made the air feel thick and oppressive. Desperate for something, anything to occupy his mind, Junpei walked up to the larger of the 2 9 doors. He stood in front of it and looked at the red. It read, engaged. He moved to the smaller door. The red read, vacant. Digital root of the remaining people in the room was 7. 5 plus 4 plus 7 equals 16. 1 plus 6 equals 7. There was no possible way for them to open the 9 door with it on. Junpei touched the surface of the door. He thought about June, about Akane Kurashiki. Was she safe? That was all that mattered to him. If she was alive, if she had escaped this horrible boat, that was what Junpei prayed for. Seven came up next to him. He pulled off his hat and scratched his head and sighed.
So, what do we want to do, Junpei?
What do you mean, what do we want to do? What can we do? Seven opened his mouth to respond when a noise echoed throughout the room. Someone was pounding on something, vigorously. It wasn't mechanical. It was certainly human. Junpei and Seven looked at one another.
What the hell is that?
Shh! Quiet! Clover motioned to Seven to be quiet. She put one finger to her lips and closed her eyes in concentration. The 3 of them listened, trying to determine where the sound was coming from. Where was it coming from? Could it be?
Hey, I think it's coming from this coffin.
You're right. Let's open it.
But how?
What are those muscles for? For show?
You telling me to force it open?
Just shut up and try. Junpei and Seven grabbed hold of the coffin. They tried to get a good grip on it with what little purchase they could find and pulled with all their strength.
Ah! Gah!
Damn it!
Man, it won't even budge.
There was some sort of keypad attached to the coffin. Its purpose would have not been difficult to determine. Their eyes were almost immediately drawn to it.
Not another one.
Yeah, looks like it. Do you think we have to put in the right password or it won't open? I think so. The noise wasn't stopping. In fact, it was getting louder. They had no idea who was in the coffin, but they wanted out, and they wanted out now. They had no idea what they were supposed to do. Without a passcode, didn't seem like there was a lot they could do. They couldn't even tell how many numbers the passcode needed to be. Isn't there a hint somewhere?
Well, let's look for one.
Unfortunately, there didn't seem to be anything near the coffin. Clover ran to examine the pews, and Seven investigated the desk, but they turned up nothing. The sound still wouldn't stop. It wasn't a noise that belonged in that room. What was the passcode? What was Junpei supposed to do? And how was he supposed to figure it out? He needed something. The world blinked. Suddenly, there was a voice inside Junpei's head. Truth had gone, and truth had gone. And now the truth is asleep in the darkness of the sinister hand. What the hell was that? That voice? Junpei was utterly and completely baffled.
Huh? What are you talking about?
What's up? Seven and Clover ran over to him, but Junpei didn't know what to tell them. If he had told them he heard a voice, they'd laugh, or worse, they'd think he was going insane. So he said it was, oh, nothing. cleared his throat a little too loud and looked pointedly down at his bracelet. There was a pair of small buttons protruding from either side of it. Junpei pressed the buttons on his bracelet. We know the answer to this, right? That was it. Eight numbers blinked on and then off on the bracelet's display. Junpei checked one last time. 1, 4, 3, 8, 3, 4, 2, 1. 1, 4, 3, 8, 3, 4, 2, 1.
Huh?
Eh?
Hey, what the hell are those numbers?
Oh my gosh, are those? Junpei didn't answer. He simply walked straight to the coffin. He knelt down in front of the keypad, running over the numbers in his head so he wouldn't forget. 1, 4, 3, 8, 3, 4, 2, 1. 1, 4, 3, 8, 3, 4, 2, 1. With trembling fingers, he punched them in. 1, 4, 3, 8, 3, 4, 2, 1. That was all of them. He punched the E button. There was a moment of complete silence. Then there was the sound of the coffin lid unlatching. Someone sat up out of it. Ah! Oh, is that you, Clover? I apologize for worrying you. Snake!
Oh man, how did you?
Junpei? And 7, is that you? Oh, is everyone else here as well? Just like Rip Van Winkle. Still, it was a little too much like Snake to simply cut to the heart of the matter and ask. Junpei and 7 shared a wry smile. Clover's eyes were filled with tears. You're back! With a cry of joy, she leapt into Snake's arms. Oh, gentle now. My body's still a little weak. Oh, you're back! You're back! Clover looked like nothing so much as a lost child who'd finally found her home. She cried and cried and cried. Her eyes were red and her nose was running. She hiccuped and gasped as if she was about to start hyperventilating. Oh, you're back! Oh, you're really here! Her voice was happy, almost desperate, as if she feared he would disappear again if she stopped talking to him. Tear after tremendous tear rolled its way down her face. Her small arms strained as she clutched Snake's body as tightly as she could. Perhaps she had to convince herself he was real. Perhaps she was worried he would be gone the moment she let go. Perhaps she simply didn't know what else to do. Oh, you're back! Oh, come now, what's gotten into you? Acting as though I've returned from the grave. Not as though you did. I really thought you were dead. Huh? You jerk. Idiot. Clover broke into sobs so great she could no longer talk. It was a touching reunion between brother and sister. Even though Junpei knew they had little time, and every minute they waited was a minute they wasted, it felt cruel to pull them apart. Junpei and 7 sat down on one of the pews, waiting for Clover to calm before explaining to Snake what had transpired. I see. I believe I understand things rather well now, thank you. In the shower room, there's a dead body wearing my clothes. Because of that, you thought I was dead, correct? He had quickly and neatly summarized the events of several hours. Junpei nodded. You also discovered a corpse in the captain's quarters, and Santa turned on you here in this room. Do I have it straight? 7 had been rather surprised to learn of the dead body in the captain's quarters. Everything that had taken place, Junpei had simply forgotten to mention it to him. Well then, got a pretty decent idea of what happened while I was indisposed, but still something of a mystery as to who all did all this and why. The corpse in the shower room that looks like me? And the corpse in the captain's quarters? Why were they killed in the way that they were?
You don't know?
No. Why would I?
The guy in the shower room. We don't know who he is, so let's just call him Mr. X. Anyways, this Mr. X is wearing your clothes. But you're wearing some kind of weird robes. I mean, someone took your clothes and put them on Mr. X. You need to figure out who that was.
I apologize, but I have no idea who might have done this to me. I only just now woke up. I was unconscious during all the events you just described to me. Must have undressed me and changed my clothes during that time. When you were knocked out? When we split up to look for the red. Where did they get you? Do you remember? It was in a small room in one of the hallways on C deck.
What happened?
The same thing that happened to every one of us when we were abducted. A can released from some sort of gas was thrown into the room. I believe the gas was some sort of incapacitating agent. Then that means it was... Zero.
Looks that way, huh?
There's nothing else I have to tell you. When I woke up, I was in this coffin. Junpei crossed his arms and thought. Why had Zero made Mr. X wear Snake's clothes? How had the results of that trick benefited Zero? It was a mystery. Junpei couldn't make sense of it. He also didn't have the satisfactory explanation for how he discerned the key code for the coffin. It just didn't make sense. Truth had gone, and truth had gone? What did that mean?
Did it mean anything?
And why had Junpei felt compelled to push the buttons on his bracelet after hearing them? Seven asked him about it while they were waiting for Clover to finish crying. He'd had no answer for him then, and he still didn't. All he could say was it seemed to have some subconscious reaction. His fingers simply moved of their own accord. It was the only explanation that made any sort of sense, and it made almost no sense. Junpei had no idea what any of it meant. His mind was a maelstrom of mysteries, clues, theories, and more mysteries. He could barely think. And of course, Snake and Clover had been subjects to a similar experiment 9 years ago. The ability to access the morphogenetic field is affected by a couple of things. The first is epiphany, and the other is danger. And someone did actually die. A girl. Her name was, There had to be another experiment conducted in the same ship 9 years ago. A girl died during it. Morphogenetic field theory. The two murders. Switching clothes. The notary game. And whatever strange thing happened to Junpei himself. The maelstrom in his head spat out words and ideas that disappeared back into it almost as soon as he grasped them. But as he struggled through them, Junpei began to realize something. There was something that tied them all together. Zero. He was the ringleader, the person who had trapped 9 people on a sinking ship. Zero knew everything. If they could uncover Zero's identity, all of their questions would be answered. Who was Zero? Junpei had the beginnings of a theory. If only he could test it. Or perhaps... At any rate, we'll have plenty of time to decipher the details later. For now, it is of the utmost importance we escape. Junpei, it was 4:30 when you last checked the clock, yes? Means we have less than an hour. We must hurry.
Hey, how do we get out of here?
Well, isn't it obvious? We go through the other number 9 door. 5 plus 4 plus 7 plus 2 equals 18. 1 plus 8 equals 9.
Oh yeah! Oh yeah, you're right! With Snake, we can open the door!
Don't tell me you hadn't figured that out. As they sniped back and forth, Junpei glanced at Snake's left arm. He was wearing a bracelet with a 2 on it.
Oh, come on, you gotta tell me these things!
Oh, I'd assume you'd figured it out.
Ah, forget it. Let's just get going.
7 stomped off towards the smaller number 9 door. Clover, Snake, and Junpei followed. 7 quickly laid his hand on the red, and an asterisk appeared on the screen. Junpei and the others followed suit and laid their hands on the scanner panel. Soon there were 4 asterisks on the screen. 7 glanced at them and laid his hand on the lever of the red.
All right, you guys ready to go?
Yes. Yep. Junpei paused for a moment. Not yet.
Huh?
Before we go in, I'd like to check something. You want to check something? Well, yeah, but before I do... 7, could you pull the lever? I want to make sure we can verify with just the 4 of us.
What do you mean? We don't...
Just do it, alright? But if the door opens, don't go in, okay? Please? This is really important. I really need to check this, okay? Work with me here. Junpei looked directly into Seven's eyes. The older man looked back for a moment and then nodded.
Fine.
Seven pulled down on the lever, and door 9 creaked open. Then they waited. 6, 7, 8. After 9 seconds, the door closed. Alright, that means the 4 of us can go into door 9.
So? We knew that already. It's obvious.
Obvious. Yeah, you're right, it is. Now what happens if we add Zero's bracelet?
What?
Zero's bracelet? Why don't you take it out, Clover? For a moment, Clover looked surprised, but she recovered quickly and stuck her tongue out at Junpei. Hee hee, so you did know I had it. I picked it up because I thought it might be useful sometime. She reached into one of her pockets of her voluptuous jacket and produced a bracelet. Junpei took it from her and turned to Seven. This was in the left hand of the corpse in the captain's quarters. If you look at it, you can see it has a 0 on its face. Just to make this a little easier to talk about, I'm going to call the guy we found dead in the captain's quarters Cap. If Cap's bracelet really was 0, then I should be able to open door 9 with just me, Clover, and his bracelet. 5 plus 4 plus 0 equals 9. Most importantly, if you were Cap and this was your game, would you really put one of these bracelets on yourself? Anyways, let's just give this a shot. Clover, give me your hand. Oh, okay. After he and Clover scanned their bracelets, he waved Cap's over the scanner panel. Then he pulled the lever. However, the door didn't open. The red display read error. I knew it. Now, what does this tell us?
Maybe the bracelet has to be on your wrist in order for it to work?
No, that's impossible. See how the panel showed a third asterisk when it scanned Cap's bracelet? Whether that's on your wrist doesn't matter. All you have to do is put the bracelet near the panel for it to register. Seven waved his bracelet in front of the scanner panel. Sure enough, a single asterisk appeared on the red.
Huh. Looks like you're right.
See? So what does that mean? There's only one possibility. The bracelet isn't the number 0. Is that what you're saying?
That's right.
Then what number is it? Let's find out. Junpei scanned the bracelet with this combination. So, we'll just do the easy one because we know the answer to this. We will do 7 plus Junpei plus Cap. 7 plus Junpei plus Cap. 7 plus Junpei. 7 plus 5 equals 12. 1 plus 2 equals 3. This combination opened the door. Cap's bracelet number was 6.
Got it in 1. Hey, it opened. The door opened.
What? Why? What does that mean? Both Seven and Clover seemed rather shaken. As they turned to look at Junpei for answers, the door slid heavily shut. Junpei raised an eyebrow. Well, isn't it obvious? Cap's bracelet is the number 6. 7 plus 5 plus 6 equals 18. 1 plus 8 equals 9.
But doesn't it say 0?
This isn't a 0. The symbol on here isn't the number 0. It's the letter O.
Oh?
Whoa, wait a minute. I don't get it. We figured out that Cap's bracelet is 6, right? Well, yeah. Does that mean there are 2 people with 6s? Before Junpei could answer, Snake spoke up. There's most likely only one person with a 6. But I don't get it. What about June? Well, this is only an educated guess, but I think June's number was never 6 to begin with. Her bracelet is flipped. In other words, June's real number is
9?
That seems most likely. Then all the numbered door stuff was just a load of crap? Why would you say that? Because if June is 9, the numbers wouldn't match up. Clover grabbed Junpei's notebook and began to furiously write in it. Junpei leaned over to look at it. List of all numbered doors June's gone through. Clover read each row out loud so that Snake could follow along. Alright, I made a list of all the numbered doors June has gone through so far. I wrote down which door she went into and with who. And wrote what all the numbers were. So if we switch 9, and wherever there's a 6, the numbers don't work. The digital root is 7, you can't open door 4. Digital root is 2, then you can't open door 8. Clover, do you notice anything interesting on that list? What do you mean?
Oh, you're talking about 3, right?
3?
Santa's always in the room with her. That's what you're saying, isn't it?
Yes, exactly. What about it? That's quite simple, really. You told me that the first time you came to the room, Santa was the first to refuse to leave June behind. Now, doesn't that beg the question, why? Why would Santa do such a thing? The answer is easy. Because Santa can't open door 9 with only 7 in Lotus. Of course, there's only one reason for that. His number isn't actually 3. Santa's real number is... 7, would you be so kind as to modify my sister's equation?
Oh, yeah, sure.
7 took the pen from a confused Clover and began to adjust her calculations.
This is what you're getting at, right, Snake?
He read out the changes he'd made. When he finished, he looked at Snake. Snake was smiling. Well, thank you. That's exactly right, 7. Santa's true number wasn't 3. It was 0. No way! Santa's 0? And the 9, June's 9, was 9? Not a 6? On the contrary, Santa was a 0 and not a 3. Plus 3 and minus 3. They cancel one another out. Nothing appears out of order.
Then that means even though he set the whole damn thing up, Santa was still playing by the rules of the notary game this whole time?
Precisely. So you're saying Santa planned this whole thing? I'm not sure he acted alone or not, but I think it's safe to conclude that he is 0. If my hypothesis is correct. Clover bit her lip. She seemed to be having some difficulty believing her brother's explanation. Junpei remained silent in thought. Snake's hypothesis didn't satisfy him. June's bracelet was flipped? Even if that were possible, then there were 2 number 9 bracelets. And if that were the case... Alright, that's enough talking. Let's go. It's high time we went through that door. Door 9 opened. They leapt through. The dead was directly in front of them as they came through the door. Quickly, they scanned their bracelets. And the detonator stopped. Phew! After pausing for a moment to catch their collective breaths, Jupiter's companions headed down the long hallway in front of them. At the end was a set of stairs leading down into the ship. Looked as though it led all the way to the bottom deck. They looked down. It didn't seem to be flooded. After deciding it was safe, they headed down the stairs. Before long, Jupiter and his companions found themselves on the bottom deck. They turned left into another hallway, later which they found another door. Of course, there was a symbol engraved on the keyhole. Looked like a sort of harpoon one would use to hunt fish, the kind with 3 prongs. Snake traced the shape with his fingers. This is the Neptune symbol. There must be a key around here somewhere. Neptune key. All Jupiter had was the Uranus key card. Not the same planet, not even the same sort of key. Clearly, it wasn't going to open this door. After examining the door for a few more minutes, they gave up and headed back the way they'd come. With a little more searching, they found a metal door. To the side of it was a card reader. The symbol was engraved onto the card reader. It matched the Uranus symbol on the key card Junpei was carrying. This is the place, he muttered to himself, and slid the card through the reader. It beeped once, and the light on it turned green. With a heavy metal groan, the door creaked open. Junpei, Clover, Snake, and 7 looked at one another, nodded, and stepped through. The room they found themselves in was full of books. It looked remarkably like a library. Not the sort of library where large numbers of people came to read books. More the sort of library that was simply a place to store books. He felt a little overwhelmed by the sheer number of books, but Junpei did his best to speak with authority. Alright, if we want to get through that door over there, we'll need the Neptune key. I say we split up and look for it. Okay. Very well.
Sure thing.
Good. Let's get started then. We don't have a lot of time. Hurry! Alice sleeps in a small chamber past the forest of knowledge. As he began his search, for reasons he didn't fully understand, should have felt those particular words float through his mind. All right, and with that, I think we're actually going to call it for now. So, dang, all right, we had a lot of things happen. Santa betrayed the group, put a gun to June's head, and pulled himself, June, Lotus, and Ace through the door. He's also potentially Zero, and June's bracelet might be weird. Though that also feels pretty loose. That kind of just feels like a tangent Snake went on. But maybe. I guess we'll find out. Anyway, we're in the library. We'll pick it up there next time. This is Scotty J signing off, and I'll see you around. Bye-bye!